Welcome back to the Drive Home Reviews podcast, where I review the movies I have just seen while I'm driving home from the theater. You know, I am of a certain age now, and one of the benefits of having had a, relatively long life at this point is getting to look back over all of the historical events that I have been present to witness. And some of them have been extremely tragic and things that shook the foundation of your world and everything around it. I remember the Oklahoma City bombing, the crash of the TWA flight, of course, 9/11. I have lived through 2 wars at this point. And then, of course, those moments in time that you were fairly certain were going to be the end of all human civilization. The 2020 lockdown, and of course, both fucking Trump administrations. But we'll leave that where it lies. And then there were those moments in time that, in the brief span in which they were taking place, felt like big deals. Everyone tried to make them a big deal, but ultimately nothing happened. And they were not this is one of the reasons why when COVID first started, a lot of people were just kind of shrugging it off, because we'd been through things like that before. We had been through the bird flu, we'd been through the swine flu, we'd been through mad cow, all these things that the media really, really hyped up, and, ultimately nothing really came of it. Not to say that people didn't get sick or there weren't negative consequences, but it didn't have the long, far-reaching effects that they kept telling us it was going to have, at least not that anybody really noticed. And then, of course, there was the granddaddy of them all, Y2K. Okay, so I know that there are going to be those of you out there who have only heard about this in stories. So for those who were not there, basically what the panic was is that there was this fear that as the year 1999 approached the year 2000, there was this belief that the minute the clock rolled over on the new year, that this 000 was somehow going to fuck with every single computer chip on the planet, and everything was gonna go haywire, because for some reason, the resetting of the date was gonna make the computer chips just all malfunction. Everything was gonna go wrong. All of the missiles were going to go off. All of the planes were going to crash, and this was a genuine concern. It sounds ridiculous to think about it now, and I'll be honest, it was ridiculous to think about it then. But there were the people preparing Y2K fallout shelters in the same way people were, planning fallout shelters during, the 60s and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So yeah, a lot of us did not take these people seriously. These are the same people that were hoping that there was going to be a zombie apocalypse. Don't feel very safe around folks like that. But of course, the date rolled over, the world went on, everything kept spinning, and nothing happened. Nothing came of it. Less than nothing came of it. It came, it went, and we all kind of looked at each other like, well, don't we feel the perfect ass? So this movie, now 30 some odd years later, or almost 30 years later, comes out and says, yeah, but what if it had fucked us up? And that's the premise of this little film that once again I found by accident and decided, well, I was there, let's check it out. So it's kind of interesting. I'm noticing that more so this year than a lot of years previously with this review show. I'm getting a big clump of the same actors in things, and I'm also getting similar themes and time periods. This is now the second movie that I have reviewed this year that takes place in an alternate version of the 90s. Only where Electric State did that, I feel, because of the level of technology that was available at the time. This film feels like it came into being because of a genuine love and respect for that era. And you know, I dig that. I was a young man in the 90s. Those were my high school years. That was kind of when I began forming into the person I am today, for better or worse. And I was kind of just thinking about it the other day. I was listening, ironically, to a band from the 90s, Aqua, and they had a song called Back to the 80s. And I was kind of thinking, what happened to, like, 90s nostalgia? You don't hear a lot of songs about, let's go back to the 90s. And, yeah, where's that? And I think we're starting to get the traces of that. Because this film is, in almost every way, a pure love letter to the 90s. And a film that takes great pain in trying to capture the look and the feel and the atmosphere of cinema of that point in history. So, this is a complicated movie for me to really wrap my head around, because it's a movie that, for the first, I'd say, I'm not great with fractions, let's say the first act and a half, so like the first full chunk of this movie, I was all about. And I think the first chunk of this movie is damn near transcendent, with nary a flaw to be found. So as the movie begins, of course, it's New Year's Eve, 1999, and the film has the look and the feel and the thematic elements of your standard 90s teen movie. You've got your two hapless nerds, played by Jaden Martell and Julian Denson, who are, of course, looking for that big party, that party that's going to make them men. We all know where this has a very American Pie, Can't Hardly Wait, little bit of Superbad. I know that's early 2000s, but still. Actually, that'd be about mid 2000s, wouldn't it? So yeah, never mind. Scratch that. Anywho, it has elements of those 90s staples in there, as these two kids want to go to the ultimate New Year's Eve party, being held by, of course, the school douchebag. I think the character's name is Soccer Chris. I am not going to say the actor's name. I absolutely refuse, because if this guy's stage name is so douchey, it's no wonder that he got cast to play this douche. I don't know if he's an influencer or something. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but yeah, I'm not saying it. Anyway, of course, Jaden Martell's character is super psyched to go to this party, but he's also very nervous about it, because this is where the girl of his dreams, his Jennifer Love Hewitt, is going to be, and this may be his chance to finally confess his feelings to the girl he has admired from afar for so long, played by the internet's favorite punching bag as of late, Rachel Zegler. She's back. So yeah, this movie plays out just beat for beat like a classic 90s teenage rom-com. And as goofy and ridiculous as a lot of those movies were and are, there was a certain innocence about them, especially given all the events that were going to come as the new millennium kind of progressed. You can kind of look back at the 90s and that point in time of, God, just we were either ignorant or we were just really innocent, depending on how you look at it. And yeah, it's fantastic. It feels like a genuine love letter to the 90s versus, you know, picking that time period kind of arbitrarily and trying to recreate it. You know, there's like a great scene when they get to the party, and of course, one of the cliches of 90s teen films is that, you know, of course, all the different cliques in high school only hang out with each other. They never mix, you know, that kind of thing. And as they enter the party, they kind of look around, and of course, all the different cliques are in their little corners. And every time they look at one, a different 90s song plays for that group. So you got the stoners, you've got, you know, the goths, you've got the preppies. You know, you know the drill. So yeah, it's very genuine and feels a lot like one of these movies. And this setup goes on for a decent amount of time. Like it's an extra long kind of first act to introduce our characters, to set up the world. And you don't mind that. One, because again, for someone like me, that world is very familiar and very nostalgic. And also, you know what's coming. So the longer they kind of take with this setup and making it feel like this is another teen romance, the harder it's going to hit when the kills start coming. And true to form, when Y2K does hit and the machines start to rise up, that first bit is fucking amazing. Kind of like I gave Electric State credit, I have to give this one credit for the sheer creativity of how the different machines have put themselves together and the various robots they have created out of the technology available at the time. It's really cute. And the other thing, one of the other things I love about this movie is that most of it, I would say almost all of it, I don't think there's a shot that I could pick out where this wasn't the truth. It's all practical effects. There's not a green screen or CGI character or mocap to be found. It's puppets and guys in suits. And is it hokey? Yeah, it's fucking hokey. But that's supposed to be the point of the movie. One of the main bad guys who's chasing our heroes around, I shit you not, I swear that this robot is taking a break from its day job of tormenting those infernal Power Rangers. But that's part of the charm. That's part of what makes it awesome, is this guy in this huge clunky robot suit stomping around and doing creative kills. And you get a lot. Not only do you get creative kills, you get surprising kills. People that you didn't think were going to die when they died. And that was awesome. The whole chunk, the whole opening of the movie, the party scene, the Y2K kind of emerging, the robots starting to rise up, chasing our heroes around, the huge body count at the teen party, all of that. Mwah! Beautiful, perfect, and awesome. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is it. This is going to be phenomenal, because the rest of this movie is just going to be our teen heroes running from place to place. Crazy robots show up. There's interesting kills based on the technology that was available. And it's just going to be this roller coaster of awesomeness till the end. Yeah, that's not what happens. So they, like, the minute they leave the party, there's one really funny kill, because it has nothing to do with the robots. The guy just kind of falls and dies, which is hysterical to me. And then the film just slows down. It slows way down, if I could steal a gimmick from OSW reviews.
Oh, slow the plot down, laddie, slow the plot down. Way slow the plot down. We'll scuttle the story and run her aground. We'll try so hard to slow the plot down.
So instead of the movie completely shifting gears, which I believe it should have, this movie still attempts to be a 90s teen film, as our group of surviving protagonists march through the forest trying to find other human survivors and avoid robots. We're sitting there, and you've got your nerd, your popular girl, your stoner girl, and your wannabe white rapper, and they're walking along and going off on the popular girl. Oh, you never spoke to us. You were always so busy. And of course, Rachel Zegler's character, you don't know how hard it is to be popular. All of that shit. And I am sorry. I love 90s movies, but I was tired of that shit when 90s movies were doing it. All right? The perceived class structure of high school that 90s movies believed were in place dominated so much of the media of the time. And yeah, for certain films it worked. Things like 10 Things I Hate About You, it worked really well in. But others, it just... Maybe my high school experience was different. I'm not saying my high school was perfect. God knows it was not. I mean, we had our douchebags, and you had your stoners, and you had your rock kids, but at least to me, it never felt like there was this true purposeful segregation of cliques. It never felt that way to me. And this is coming from someone whose group of friends were very much on the outside. We felt like the segregated clique. The nerdy Mystery Science Theater fans. So I don't know if that's other people in the 90s high school experience. Maybe it was different for me because of where I went to school. But I got tired of that shit in the 90s when it was actually happening in movies. And once the robot uprising begins and the blood starts flowing and a digipet has just drilled through the skull of one of your friends, and the microwave has killed somebody, I think, personally, at that point, all bullshit about, cliques and, who did what to whose greatest sin was not talking to somebody, all of that shit should really have gone out the window. Really. But the movie just slows down. It is forever until we see another robot. and even longer until we get another fun, creative kill. It just slows to an absolute crawl. And any interesting things that they bring into it that they could have carried through to the rest of the movie, they abandoned very quickly. The next robot we see is our main character, Jaden Martell's computer, and it seems to be friendly towards them because it's his computer and they've spent time together, and it has all of his hopes and dreams and memories stored on it. And that was an interesting thing to explore, that the computers and the machines are only as dangerous as we kind of are. This is the second movie I've seen with, or third movie I've seen with some variety of killer robots in it. So, there you go. And that's a neat idea, but it's gone almost immediately. They do a couple things with it and then it's over. And you're like, oh, I thought that was going to become their new robot pal. And no, that does, they're Alpha 5. But yeah, that doesn't happen. We spend an inordinate amount of time with the teenagers bitching at each other. We spend a lot of time with the hippie commune that they're hiding out in. And then finally go back into town where we meet our court-mandated 90s celebrity doing a guest spot. This time Fred Durst, who's like, I like how they always refer to him as Fred Durst, like his full name. And then we go to the school for the climax, which is not as exciting or interesting as you might be hoping. It does have some character payoff, which I appreciate, but yeah, not a lot else going on towards the from the moment they escape the party to the end, it's just kind of there. It doesn't really do much. It doesn't do a lot with its own concepts, and I just feel like it's wasted opportunity. Like, it feels to me like what would have been a better film is, like I said, they escape the party, our group, which I don't mind that it's made up of people from the different cliques, but I think once that happens, they should have abandoned all the teenage movie bullshit, had them go from place to place, meet and encounter different killer robots, and each of the people, if they're not bumped off, their individual skills or their personality somehow helps them get out of the situation. And that's how you show, you don't tell. And the characters become friends through that experience, as opposed to whining and bitching and moaning. I just think it would have been tighter, it would have been more fun, and I think there's so much creativity in this movie, and I wonder if the reason they kind of went the direction that they went, this feels to me like it was made on the cheaper side. This obviously isn't a huge, big budget. I mean, it must have had a decent sized budget. Those puppets and suits couldn't have been cheap. But I feel like the long stretches of time without robots and without kills may have been budgetary in nature. It doesn't cost a lot to film a bunch of people walking and talking for extended periods of time, but filming guys in robot suits killing people, that's more costly. So I get that feeling like that's what went down there. But I just feel like I lost interest when the movie went in that direction, and that's a damn shame, because everything up till then I was good with. I was great with everything up till then, and I love the dedication to being authentic to the 90s, especially the late 90s, the chat rooms and how the screen setups look. our main bad guy, the artificial intelligence that's taken over, and how it's animated with like PlayStation 1 graphics. You know, like, yeah, that's all very authentic and very real. And yeah, it looks good in its badness. You know, there was a time, you kids wouldn't believe it. You know, I hear people bitching and moaning about, you know, the CGI in recent Marvel movies. It's like, boy, go look at some of this shit and look at the boxy, inhuman way these computer characters moved back then, and we lost our shit. We were like, these are the best graphics ever. You know, it's like, yeah. So I appreciate the level of detail. I appreciate that all the actors are here for it. All the actors are given really good performances. Again, Rachel Zegler, honey, I am so sorry that you are getting the shit that you're getting. You do not deserve it. You're a good actor. You have a lot of screen presence. You're a lovely young lady. I am sorry. You'll never hear this. Maybe you will. Maybe you're a fan. Maybe you listen to this. But I am sorry you're getting the shit that you're getting currently, because you're a good actor, and I want to see you in more things. She does a great job in this. It is a little off-putting, not so much as she's a 24-year-old playing a teenager. You know, that's pretty common for the genre. But Jaden Martell, who is our main character, kind of, he looks like he's 12. You know, like in certain shots, so the age difference kind of comes across. But Jaden Martell and Julian Denson have great chemistry as high school best friends. They feel authentic. Yeah, there's a lot of good in this movie, and it makes me sad that it couldn't carry through. It just didn't. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this one. So instead of just running around and chasing my tail, I'm going to just leave it there. I think that the first quarter of this movie is worth checking out. For 90s kids and fans of these kind of movies, definitely, you know, even if you don't watch the rest of it, go check out the first, you know, up until they escape the party. And if you want to turn it off after that, I certainly don't blame you. But, you know, so yeah, that's kind of my take on this. So let's wrap this up. A little shorter than usual, but that's okay. So, final grade for Y2K. It kills me a little bit, but I gotta say a C. Like, middle of the road C. I almost want to bump it up to a C+. Matter of fact, I'm going to. Let's bump that up to a C+. Because, yeah, the first chunk of this movie is fucking awesome. Love it. Love everything about it. No notes. But it just shows what happens when you slow the plot down. Just shows what happens. You know, I'm always saying it. You know, this movie's running too long. I feel like I'm some old man. Hey, I remember when movies were shorter. But this one is a case in point. You know, compare this to Companion and how tight and well-structured that was versus the last, you know, 2/3 of this one. So, yeah. But that first chunk is worth checking out. So please go do that. Alrighty. So, that is all. That's all for this episode. So, thank you for coming along. Thank you for listening. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.